Welcome to Man Talk 133 with Charles and Darl, the movement dedicated to empowering men, uniting brothers, and building a strong coalition. This is more than just a conversation. It's a call to action. Join us as we uplift, support, and inspire men worldwide. Because together, we don't just talk, we lead, we grow, and we conquer. Are you ready to be part of the coalition? Let's dive in.
Welcome to Man Talk 133 with Charles and Daryl. Welcome everybody into the show this evening. Hey, bro, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, bro? How you feeling, man? How you feeling?
Amen to it, man. We got a special guest on today, y'all. We got Roy Chucky Bolis. We call him Chucky.
Brother Roy.
Good. How y'all doing?
Doing good, right, man. I wanted to bring you on, man, because you have a very, very intriguing story. I'm put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The reason why I got the show From Prison to Prosperity,
Mm-hmm.
because that's exactly from what I see happen for you, right? So if you could, man, just tell the people a little bit about you, and then we're gonna get into your story a little bit. And I got some questions I gotta ask. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just got to.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My name is Roy Bolis, and my story actually took a turn for the worse when I was young. I was a little kid, inspired by the individuals and the hood, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Trying to learn what a man should be or would be by placing my attention in areas that actually can cause someone to lose their lives. Uh, Fortunately, I didn't lose my life, but I lost a good portion of my life when I was incarcerated for attempting to be a drug dealer and got caught up in a violent situation. And I ended up being convicted of 80 years to life. And
Yes.
out of that 80 years of life, I served 31 years. And what happened is during that course of time, it would be fair to say that I've started to read a lot, come across a mentor by the name of Eddie Ellis, who had a profound effect on so many people
Mm-hmm.
inside, particularly the youth. And what he did is send some of the influential youth in the prison out to get the other youth like me who were coming in that was slightly younger, because he didn't want the guys running amok inside, hurting one another and not understanding all of the different reactions or the backlash of their actions when they actually hurt one another or hurt the community and so on and so forth. So he had sent some guys to come talk to me and put us all in the room, started asking us if we actually analyzed the things that we were doing in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Know that the families that are left behind that are hurting, our own families, families of other individuals, the havoc that was being impacted upon all of those who were in those neighborhoods and communities. And he gave me a list of books to read. He teaching us. He got all of the youth inside the room. He was a strong pillar because he had actually went for a master's degree. And as a part of his master's degree, it was agreed upon that he would start a social program, which was called Resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And Resurrection actually had the goal and objective of trying to raise the intellect of individuals
Mm-hmm.
so they can be better, not only just for the time being, but for the rest of their lives. So I was taken aback because in fact, you would never think that I had a doctorate degree or anything of that nature because I hated to read.
Right. And we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get into that too, because that's an interesting part of your
Mm-hmm.
story. We definitely gonna
Right.
get into that for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Life, and he changed.
mhm.
I was thinking myself as well as many other individuals, and I just never looked back. I never looked back,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably was going to end up dying in prison. Because,
Okay.
you know,
So let me ask you this. So let's go back to, you said I think it was about 80 years or something like that, I believe, right?
yeah,
So being young, because these are some of the questions I had to ask. Being young, being 18, I know being on the streets, tough guy, right? So what was it like going into like Rikers Island and some of these other places as a teenager, basically, right? Because now you going from, going in with grown men and killers, from being on the
Mhm.
street to like, you know, uh, being free. Now you're here with these grown men. How was that experience? Was it feel for? I'm pretty sure it was in the beginning, but what was that like? Because I know some people probably want to know, like, hey, I know I do. What was
Right.
it like
Yeah.
at that age, knowing you have that much time to do in a place like that?
yeah, definitely helpless and hopeless situation. And the feelings that it's hard to even put it into words, but you ever like find yourself in a situation where you just felt that somebody had just snatched your soul out of your body and that
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it
Mm.
and you trying to grab on to something to hold on to. And in my mind, I actually had figured if they find me guilty, I'm going to find cyanide and I'm going to bite down on the pill right there because
Right.
the jails, the prisons, they're abnormal environments. But the people that are contained therein, they convince themselves that it's a normal way of living. And this is where all of the different criminal propensities actually take place. This is how they become criminal minded and they become tenured. Some are willing to accept it and they're willing
Hmm.
to sit in it and thrive in it. And I knew that wasn't me. My thing
Hmm.
was that this young dude and took the wrong turn. I'm gonna tell you how twisted I was because I was actually prepared for orientation in college a month after I had gotten arrested. So I was preparing to go to college.
Wow.
Did have some scruples,
Wow.
when you have the older men coming to tell you like this is how you be a man, this is how you get your respect, this is what you do when you come from a broken home. And though my dad was there in my life and I saw him quite often, unlike many of my other friends, he wasn't in the household itself. So that left a
Hmm.
for the streets to come in and say, hey, mom,
Hmm.
dad is not here, chicks like you,
Right.
how to get chicks, we can show you how to get the cars and all the name brand and look, just here, come let me show you. And that was it. So you take a young man who has low self-esteem and has no knowledge of himself. He has no knowledge of the social, economic, and political ramifications surrounding him. He knows
Hmm.
nothing. And then here comes this dude knock and say, I'm gonna show you how to be a man. And that's how I got hooked. And that's not to even shift the blame or anything, because when I'm giving lectures and speaking to all of these brothers across the country, and not only
Hmm.
just all different races, all different belief systems, when I'm speaking to them, I always tell them that you always have a choice.
Hmm.
Let me make it straight for you, because the quickest way that the criminal like to go is to cut a corner and say, yo, I'm oppressed. I had to do what I had to do. And all this,
Right.
like,
Right.
I did 31. All of y'all cats are playing with it. Y'all playing for crumbs. Y'all doing 2 years, 3 years, and you crying like babies, and you keep coming back. You have a choice. It's
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, because we're the only one riding around being shot down by cops.
Right.
Obviously something ain't right. You know what I mean? We're in
Right.
prison
Hmm.
at rate, something is wrong. The only ones who have a problem getting certain loans and housing and business loans and all. You just name it. Like Michelle Alexander said, book, the new Jim Crow. She just took the stats and she applied the stats and showed that something was wrong. There's an imbalance. So I give it
Hmm.
to you. Inside of that, have that's the difference
Hmm.
between me. Charles that never had went to prison and had went through and because he made a choice to do something. All the Darrells or other guys who
Hmm.
I knew had said, no,
Hmm.
I'm not going the way you're going. So you
Hmm.
have, but it's a very harrowing experience, man. I
Hmm.
swear, now, going back and thinking about that child in that situation is something so demeaning, so scary, so fearful. I recall one time my mom and dad came to see me, and I felt so haunted. And my mom trying to hold up her, her, her strength, and my
Mm-hmm.
dad man thing, and they had us talking through a phone and a window, and everything just came down on me, man. And I cried, man. And you don't do that in jail, you know what I
Right.
mean? In that small booth, I was that little boy again.
Mm-hmm.
And the courts were determined to show that no, he's not no child. He is a nuisance. He's a terror. He's one of those who don't deserve to be. And for that moment, I was allowed to show mom and dad that I am still that little boy,
Mm-hmm.
scared to death, and I don't know what to do. And I'm trying to keep my scruples together and not fall apart. And mom, she started crying. She passed the phone off to my father. He trying to hold it together. I found out later that he held it together, and when he left and walked through that gate, he let it go.
I bet.
Yeah.
So you don't think about that type of pain, because to see that pain in their faces,
Mm-hmm.
who could not be affected? You got to have a cold heart to not think
Mm-hmm.
about you hurt the aunts, the uncles, the parents, the grandparents, and they all coming still trying to stand behind me. I got to a point where I told my family, don't come to court. Don't, no, we need to be there to support you. I said, listen to me. Don't come to court. I'm good. And I mean, I know it was God. It's not,
Yeah.
I don't know where
Mm-hmm.
this, but I had told them I humiliated this family, my community, and you don't deserve to have to come up here and see this.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me when I came off the elevator one time and I had shackles and a chain around my waist and handcuffs on my arms, and my mom and dad. As soon as the elevator opened, they sitting there and they look like a deer caught in headlights. So humiliated, and I'm like, they don't deserve this, man. I got them sitting here
Right.
humiliated and indirectly against them. And I just told them, I got it. I'm going to ride out for better,
Mm-hmm.
ride out alone. And y'all going to make me weak if I see you. I need to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And nobody could understand that. And that's how I made it. I did the whole thing and went through trial, blue trial and everything, and was found guilty and had to go take my, so to speak.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, we're gonna get more into this. We got like a little
Yeah.
break that we coming up to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's kind of giving a glimpse of to the people of kind of what I want them to kind of see, especially the young
Right.
people. Because when you're looking at like 80,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way you can really,
Man.
really kind of like make that feel better. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So we're
Yeah.
gonna jump back into more of this right after this break, y'all.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Welcome back to Man Talk
Yes, sir.
133
Yes, sir.
with Shaw and Durham. We back
sir.
on with a special
Brother
guest.
Roy.
Yeah, call him brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, Brother Roy, I'm gonna tap in real quick, man.
Go ahead, do your thing.
I'm gonna kind of piggyback off, you and Charlotte, whatever, because we interviewing you. The people want to, they want to hear your story. We want you to get your story out. So, I'm gonna kind of like lay back. I'm gonna ask you, just a few questions here and there, but the people want to hear you,
Yeah.
your side and stuff like that. But I'll go back to what you said earlier. I feel you about the when you said you was like, when you was crying, like with the visitation or whatever, because it was like when I go back when I was working. When I first got out of the military, I was working at Caledonia Shaw and attested that
Yeah.
at the state prison down here, right? And I used to have to witness that. Like the guys get visits and they get ready to leave. They only got like a couple of hours visitation, right? And their kids be leaving and they be crying and all that stuff, man. I'll be like, man, and outside of God, I think that's what kept me out of there, out of there, because I actually worked in there for a few years So I kind of saw what it was like, you know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
was like, man, I don't know how these guys, handle it, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like you too. I probably would have been looking for that cyanide pill, you know what I'm saying? So or tried to jump the fence or something. But I think, like you said, man, as far as like, you said trying to be a man, I think with these young guys too, it's kind of like they see the easy money or the quick
Yep.
fix,
Yep.
and that's where they get out there so quick on. It's so quick. What's your take on that? This quick fix, that easy money, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Later on, one of my main arguments in trying to find my way out was that I had to study on the prefrontal lobe of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, develop the brain is inside of the adolescent, well, the late teens. So they say usually between 13 and I think 19. And what happens is the scientists in the courts were coming to the conclusion that how do you sentence these young people like when they can't think past go? That, and I'm paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's an injustice to actually sentence them in this manner if they can't think of the consequences. They can't really ponder the actions. They might know right and wrong, but they don't know the depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
read that. I said, that is me on steroids. Like I couldn't even the backlash behind it. I didn't think about how just to be a drug dealer, you might end up having to carry a gun illegally. You might end up having to transport some type of product from point A to point B, and you could get caught. Like you just think about that, and it's so bad that over the years they used to tell me the prisons would come up to me like, "You don't belong here," and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and no, he's like, "Yo, I've been doing this for such and such amount of years. You do not belong here," I mean, it was a compliment, but at the time it was an insult because I'm like, I hope y'all ain't
Yeah.
looking at me like
Yeah.
that. But what they were saying is that we, for the most part, made this a part of our lives. You
Mm-hmm.
sleep, and they're trying to make it seem like you're one of us.
Mm-hmm.
I did read that research in the courts a hold of it. I was like, this is what I've been trying to explain from the very beginning because I didn't have that through juvenile delinquent facilities and foster homes and the stuff that make your heart hard-hearted, or abuse or sexual abuse or emotional abuse or physical abuse that a lot of the kids get in these adoptions during these adoptions. I didn't have that because the ultimate destination is prison with most of the guys. And when I'm going to the prisons and speaking to the guys in prisons across the country, what happens is I find out that a lot of them have taken that same journey.
Mm-hmm.
Mom is either a prostitute or she's strung out on drugs. She ends up dying. Dad's nowhere to be found. So the family don't want to be bothered with the child. The system have to step in. The system come and get them, put them in foster care. They grow up in foster homes, which are like training grounds for prison. Uh,
Yeah.
and they got to hold their own, join a gang while they're in the foster home or the juvenile delinquent facility, and all they learn is institutionalization. All they learn is that to be a man you have to be violent. If you're not violent, you're weak and you're going to be prey. So be as violent as you can. And no room for tears. There's no room for processing your feelings. There's no room. And me, since I didn't come up through there, and I had so many friends that came through there, I was just kind of like, how you say, promoted or skipped,
Yeah.
or get a chance to go from first grade to 12. I went
Right.
first 12 prison wise, so I was thrown
Right.
right violent situation into felonies and never had a chance to get misdemeanors, never had a chance to go to juvenile delinquency or nothing. Thrown in there. So my education had came real quick. And on top of that, you know, there was like a how could I say, factions and that wanted to hurt me and and then I had to find a way to hurt them back before they hurt me. And so there was a lot of pressure going on. But that one moment in the booth with mom and dad was that time when the little kid came out. And
Yeah.
those today were confused. I messed up. This is not what I wanted to be, and I know I messed up big, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. And I know you expected more of me. Those tears said so many things because that was probably the only time. In fact, it was the only time that I cried while I was inside in front of my mom and dad. The only time that tears came down my face was after a guilty verdict and they were sentencing me to the rest of my life inside. But it was the glamour. I realized that I was suffering from low self-esteem. And a lot of guys can't say that, when they coming through, because that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
You've been
Yeah.
nothing, that you come from an area that is nothing, you come from a demographic where they are nothing, and you don't learn anything about yourself, and then all of a sudden you got to find a way to validate yourself. It's a human thing. They try to,
Mhm.
this particular demographic is suffering from something that nobody else is suffering from, out with the bell curve theory and all of this stuff that I had to study that was eating me up inside, but God don't make mistakes. I learned it for a reason because it was a mission for me, and
Mhm.
did learn. I said, this is a human thing. This is not a race thing. This is not a class thing. This is not a gender thing. All human beings want to be validated somehow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I
Yeah,
got,
a
oh,
little bit extreme where we come from, but it's just a human thing.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So let me go back to, okay, so now you have this 80-year sentence. You see mom and dad, you get the crying out the way, you get the thoughts of wanting to take yourself out the way. Now, you did 30, right? 30, 31, somewhere in that area, right? So how did you navigate like through this? Like it's like I'm pretty sure it's like this concrete jungle where you got to watch yourself all the time, your head on a swivel all the time. How did you navigate through that without having to join gangs or, and still keeping your focus? Because we're gonna get into your education piece and how they got the degrees and stuff inside of there. But how did you navigate through that part of it?
So once I couldn't find my cyanide, I
Right.
got enough hard on those shoestrings. I got enough hard, and I had to kind of take an inventory of what was to come.
Mhm.
I figured that I'll just pull every iota of strength from within
Mhm.
and try to stay the course and try to keep hope, And when I got from because you go to a county jail, like the process is you get arrested. Once you get arrested, you go to a precinct. Once you go to a precinct, you end up going to the county jail. And in the county jail,
Mhm.
you trial. And then once you blow trial, they take you and they send you to state prison, which is called the big house. A lot of people call it the big house. Once they
Mhm.
prison, that's where you have guys raping young guys, you have guys killing one another over nothing or drugs or debt or and they sent me to one of the worst, I tell you, man, when I backtrack, I tell you, if nobody believe God is real, I love
Mhm.
because you cannot have any explanation for my life and the way it happened and the way it played out other than God. Because they sent me to one of the worst prisons ever. And in this prison, they were killing each other up. The if the officers didn't find a way to get you and cripple you and lame you or make you lame or make
Mhm.
the prisoners were definitely vying for a way, give me an excuse, and I had to embrace um the abnormality,
Mhm.
serve myself. It sounds like an oxymoron, but that's exactly what happened. Case in point, I had a guy come up to me one time and said, "Look, if somebody put a cupcake on your bed, you got to get a knife and stab them." I said,
Okay.
"Get a knife and stab them for giving me some cupcakes?" Like,
Right. Yeah.
normal world, you know, and I'm young
Right.
and I'm. They said, "Hey, why would I say?" Like, because in here, what they do is they give you things and they tag on interest to it. And
Mm-hmm.
once usually you can't pay the interest. So they gave me an example. Somebody keep putting a cupcake on the bed or something for you every night or whatever, and then somebody will pop up in front of your cell and is like, "Hey, you got those cupcakes?" I said, "You know, I figure you were hungry. You just coming through. Family ain't come up here yet or what so have you." And he's like, "Yo, so when you get time, I need you to give me cup back, and you also probably gonna have to give me $100 because you
Yeah.
know." And then it becomes, "I'm gonna get $100 from, I don't know, but you better get my money to me."
Yep.
Hey, Chucky, hold on for 1 second. We right up against the break because this is some of the stuff that I wanted to hear about. So we'll be right back after the break,
Right.
y'all.
Right.
On the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Welcome back to Man Talk 133 with
Yes,
Charles
sir.
and
Yes, sir.
Sarah. We got Chucky up here, and we were just talking about them cupcakes.
Yeah.
Them
We said a
cupcakes
honey
for
bun.
that interest.
But you know what, man? I was thinking about what he was saying as far as like we're gonna get to the cupcakes, but I just wanted to put it out there. Like, he's talking about the prison, the guys, his number of the guys, right? The fellas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell guys that it that kind of puts me in the mind of like the infantry units, if I could use military, because in like it's no, it's not a lot of women around. When you do see women and nurses or whatever, you guys kind of flip the lid or whatever. And then it's like in the infantry unit, like you can use in the jail unit, you can look around, you know who's the leader, you know who to stay away from, who's half crazy, if you want
That
to use
alpha.
that word. Yeah,
Yeah.
who the alpha is. You kind of know all those things. Like, yo, man, don't bother with this cat over here. He kind of like, he the alpha, he kind of off the whack or whatever. So that kind of put me in the mind of what he's talking about when he went in there and then he found his footing. And then like when the guys, like say outside of putting cupcakes, like I understand that's what the thing is in prison or whatever, but outside of putting cupcakes on the bed and got to stab somebody, it kind of put me in the mind of like a whole military mindset, like with an all male unit, you know what I'm saying? So that's
Stay
what it
on your
kind of puts
pivot.
me. Yeah, stay on your pivot, even though you're not locked in behind bars, but it's that same type of kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't be the weak link. If you in that infantry unit, you can't be the weak link. You got to stand on your 10 and all that stuff like kind of like what Brother Roy was talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
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 Analogy too, though, because predominantly male environment, you're gonna get a lot from flying all over the place, and definitely gets a little more exaggerated, definitely inside of the system. But that's a good analogy too. You stay on your P's and Q's, and as a child, I could feel myself, my mores, my ethics, my norms. I can feel all of it changing. You know, in order to survive, I can't keep the mind state that I had prior to being locked up, because I would die, or lose my sanity, or I would become food, so to speak, like they say.
Yeah.
I had to kind of like morph and become more aware of my surroundings, watch body language, read
Yeah.
body. Um, and fortunately, I didn't ever have to run into the cupcake situation.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
to aggress against me because I
Right.
didn't have
Right.
any. Always been a
Right.
skinny guy,
Right.
and light skin on top of that, and
Right.
so guys come in young like that, you have predators that have been in there 15, 20, 25, 30 years. They try to slaves and stuff. That's the whole purpose of the cupcake. Oh, you can't pay me? Well, you can either have to wash my clothes, and that's
Yeah.
That's washing somebody's underwear is one of the most humiliating things, you
Right.
know, do, you know. Um, and if you're not gonna wash my things, then you're gonna have to come and I'll be in your cell and you're gonna have to take care of me another way, you know. So when individuals knew that, I was a man, like we're not gonna have that,
Mm-hmm.
and had to be aggressive early on just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to really worry about that. And then my team also, because I realized that there were individuals in there that I knew that, were like running crazy and everything. And they knew
Right.
that me, not only had they run up against me, they had to run up against guys who really
Yep.
do also, so, but inside it didn't make a difference really who you knew, because if you were weak and you were in a strong team,
Mm-hmm.
kick you out of the car, you can't ride in the
Yeah.
car thing. So you got to
Right.
backbone and be a man. And once that was taken care of, I started going through different phases, and I had to make sure that I was aware of who was who. I had to be aware of how people react, how the guards react, what will be their response, how you can find yourself caught up in a situation and you don't have anything to do with anything because somebody stabbed someone and then slid the knife by your feet in the line or something.
Right.
They come and get you. It's him. He just dropped it on the floor, and they start hitting you with
Mm-hmm.
the head or spray you with whatever. But you had to be very, very much aware. It was so much pressure, so much stress for me for so many years because
Mm-hmm.
every that I walked out of the cell, it was like a chessboard, and I refused to be checkmated. And I had
Right.
to that board in a way that the average prisoner didn't learn it. And obviously, I learned it by God. I learned it well because I made it through unscathed and I ended up getting out. But it was a heck of a chess game and it can cost you your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know that staying the course and learning to be a man or be strong, it had its fruit also. I found myself going to the law library a lot. I didn't have time to run the yard too much. I would get into
Mm-hmm.
stuff early on, a few scuffs, fights there,
Mm-hmm.
law library trying to fight for my life. And a lot of the old timers who were well tenured criminals were like, "Young blood, you got to get to the law library. Like, I'm not gonna misguide you. You need to be in the law. They on a
Right.
loop." Yeah. And they put the fear guard in me, man. I was in that law trying to learn all of this jargon with my high
Mm-hmm.
education, that
Mm-hmm.
go to law school to learn and be able to articulate and all. Man, and I mean, it was just so hopeless, and I felt so helpless. But stand behind me, I was able to call home. I was able to keep money in the canteen or the commissary. I was able
Mm-hmm.
to people, that cared about me, and that meant a lot, But it was definitely a scary situation and a lot of fear involved as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So with all the fear and all of that was involved in it, let's go into the education piece. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how did you stay focused enough to get the degrees that you have? I mean, you can outline the degrees that you have because he's a very intelligent brother, and then
Mm-hmm.
we can talk about what you did after prison with those degrees. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what happened with me is that I was angry with myself because I said if I would have known, I wouldn't be in here.
Mm-hmm.
That I was bamboozled. I didn't know. I mean, I knew right and wrong, but I didn't know all of the surrounding ramifications of getting in
Mm-hmm.
trouble, being subjected to all these different type of people who were doing all this craziness and all these the guards, the prisoners, or whoever, people who didn't care about you. I didn't about the family who would have to keep traveling back and forth, who were getting old over the years. You watching my little sisters and my little brother and all of them growing up, turning into adults, and I'm missing all of these different family gatherings. I didn't put that inside of the formula and the calculation, and I was mad and angry at myself. So I said, I will never, ever, ever put myself in a situation where I'm not aware of what I'm doing, what the consequences will be. That's just lack of intelligence, period. You know, so I vowed to make sure that I learned everything that I could learn. Once I started to read books, the world opened up to me. Started to learn about socialism, communism, capitalism, investing, stocks, bonds. I mean, the world just opened up because Eddie has said, read this list, understand who the leaders are, understand who the followers are, you know, understand what you want to do, what you want to be. And he convinced us, because college at the time was free for everyone inside. And he was like, you know, spend time, go to college. You know, don't think that college is just for somebody else. College is for you also. And I went to college and started reading more books, and everything's just opened up. You know, it's like the angels started singing and everything. I just
Right.
know the world was so vast. And when I started going through different social awareness classes like Resurrection, I realized that it was my turn now as one of the older young guys to go out and get younger guys.
Mm-hmm.
And coming upon me to make sure that I represent the program properly. So I couldn't talk one way and then go out to the yard and walk another way, because there was a check and balance. And guys would be like, yo, you're supposed to be part of that. Why are you doing this? And so I had to fix up my walk, tighten up my walk, kind of like walk what I was learning. And then if I was talking it, I definitely had to walk it. And then one day they said, it's your turn to actually become one of the leaders in the program, to speak to the younger guys coming through. And I mean, I never had public speaking. I remember the first time they put me up to speak, man, I had sweat running down my back.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I can. And I was like, oh. But it would get me groomed and to get me ready. And they decided to take the college program out of the prisons. And that kind of made me angry, because what I did find out is that the only thing that seemed to be efficiently reducing recidivism was a college education. Hands, we had statistics and everything, but they were taking college, saying that taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for criminals to get college, you know, and I understand it. I mean, I got it. I mean, I'm out here now, and then you paying taxes all over the place, and then you want to take some of my taxes and put these guys through, and they committed a crime. But if it's a society that's trying to deal with a sickness, and you I try to exhaust every angle or from every point of view that you can to try and help a sickness. And the sickness is criminality or drug addiction or what so have you. Why not exhaust everything that you have to make the society better, rather than be so selfish and say, no, I'm not paying for that, but you have no answers. So what happens is these individuals come back out and they're colder than they went in before, and they're going to repeat. You know,
Yep. Hey, Chuck, we up against this last break. Hey, once we come out the break, we're gonna let you finish up, because I got like a couple more questions. I gotta ask these questions, so we'll be right back, y'all, after the break.
It's time for a vacation, and Fairway Travels is here to share great specials for you to choose from. Discover the charm and features of one of Sandal's 16 all-inclusive, luxury-included, adults-only resorts, or a family-friendly beaches destination in the Caribbean. Or how about a couples resort in Jamaica? If cruising's your preference, get Thunderstroke aboard Carnival Cruise Lines or set sail on an award-winning Royal Caribbean ship. Join Virgin Voyages now for a wonderful adults-only sailing. It doesn't matter if you choose to travel by plane, train, automobile, cruise ship, or rowboat, we can help you reach your dream destination. Contact Fairway Travels today at 228-365-1012. That's 228-365-1012. Or email bookitnow247@gmail.com. Fairway Travels, where your journeys keep satisfying.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.net.
Welcome, Quack.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Welcome back to
Yes, sir.
Man Talk 133 with Charles and
Yes, sir.
Darryl. And we on with Chucky, y'all. He got a very interesting story. So
Yes,
he
sir.
was talking before the
Yeah.
break, how they took the education and stuff out. I do believe
Mhm.
you have like a bachelor's, master's, and what else you got, Chuck?
Yeah, so I ended up completing 2 masters and a doctorate degree.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
what happened is that when they started taking the college out, I was so upset that I had decided to go to the library and read everything that I can read to help me to be able to put myself through college because I didn't have a lot of money, but I knew I wanted to finish. And my grandmother had always wanted me to finish college. And since I felt like I disappointed her, she's always been my biggest cheerleader. Um, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna learn everything that I can. And I learned how to develop a program through working with different colleges from inside. And got the education department inside the prison involved. And I put myself through school. And after I did that, I decided to open the same door for other individuals who didn't know how to complete and they wanted to do something better with themselves. And I never thought for like the next 10 years I'll be running a college program single-handedly, a dean,
Mhm.
a academic advisor, and everything else for all of the guys in there. And the administration, they were so astounded and they were like, how did you learn how to do this? How did you do this? You incorporate the program hands down. You didn't ask us for funding. Only thing you asked us to do is just proctor the exams. And so I was trying to explain to them how I did it, but it was adding to I didn't know at the time, it was adding to my portfolio and to my resume for the future because you
Mhm.
don't in there. Everything is selfish. Well, not everything, because you get some good guys in there that are not selfish. But for the most part, the criminals are selfish. It's like, give
Mhm.
me, take, and I'm not giving anything back. My thing was that if I'm going to die in here, I'm going to leave a legacy behind so that the youth, when they follow, they'll have something, a blueprint to follow. That was my thing. And I was determined to do that. I didn't think that I was actually pushing the door open to be released, by doing so much and trying to educate so many. And so what I did is I just took the same paradigm that I had for myself and I incorporated it for all of the other individuals who wanted to do something better. I asked the warden to give me a classroom. I took the classroom, and in that classroom, I was teaching classes at night. And the program that I had was not merciful at all. It was a simple
Mhm.
program. The college was like, okay, you're going to get the textbook on your own. You're going to study the textbook, and then we'll to the education department to be proctored. It has to be proctored, and then you send it back to us. If you pass, you get the credit, and if you don't, you fail. So I learned like textbooks after textbooks. There was no study lab. There were no professors that I could rely on. I didn't have money for that. I had to sit in that set. Well, all of this distraction going on because I got guys on the gallery. They're blasting music and boom, 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 and all of
Oh
this
yeah.
and yelling at each other. And I had to get earplugs, put them in. And because no one was on the same wavelength that I was in regards to education, for the most part, we're just doing time. This is our lives. This is what it is. And that's it.
Mhm.
So it was hard. It was painstaking to have to learn textbooks after textbook and you had nobody to rely on to clarify if you're making the right conclusion or the wrong conclusions or is your comprehension far or are you lacking interpretation but I did it and I went all the way up and I said, hey, well, if I got this master's degree, why not go for a second one? You want to
Exactly.
go
Yep.
for a second one and you won't ever be able to go for a doctorate. Just go for a second one. And so I enrolled again and again step out on faith. And I'm a firm believer that once you step out in faith and you will it and you on it and you don't let nothing take you off your path, you will bring it into fruition because that's
Mhm.
exactly where the money was going to come from. I just enrolled in school and I was determined to win. And I had
Mhm.
master degrees. And then I said, you want to be a doctor? I'm not trying to
Yep.
die. And I just couldn't figure out a way mind's eye how I would do a doctorate without a computer, without an instructor. With, I don't know, man, but I know it was all God, and but I pulled it off. I had got one instructor that was really um, determined to help me succeed. And I had one relative that was willing to work with me and go all out. So that's how I actually got most of my work done. But when it came to the writing and the reading, nobody can do that. Only you can do that for you.
Right.
And basically how I pulled it off. Lot of reading, a lot of writing. I wouldn't wish a doctorate on it. My worst enemy, man. I'm gonna tell you
I heard about that. Yeah.
about having this doctorate degree. So I ended up getting a doctorate in educational leadership. I got a master's degree in arts and a master's degree in science. And currently I'm actually working on a third master's degree, which I'll be done with the next year because I had to go back for a certain type of licensure in regards to my career. But along the way, I carried people and just opened up that college program and got a lot of the thugs out of the yard and got them to put
Hmm.
something in mind other than wanting to act crazy. And
Hmm.
always saying thank you so much, man. You just so you know, and I'm
Yeah.
humble. I never thought I would lie,
Yeah.
and that degrees actually materialize.
So let me ask you
Yeah.
this. So with tell the people how once you got out, so you did the 30, 31. Once you got out, because some people think once you're in prison, that's it. Because once they say you're
Hmm.
ex-con, they can once they define you, they can confine you to this little space. Explain to the people how once
Hmm.
you got out after 30 years of being in prison, what that degree, where you taught at, and how it helped you once you got out.
So
Well, your all your degrees, together collectively.
one of the programs that I ended up being one of the leaders and president of was called PAC, Project for Calculated Transition, inside. And what I did is I ended up formulating, working with different people on the outside. And one of those entities, um, they so astounded by my journey that they had latched on.
Hmm.
They latched on to a point where actually when I exited the prison, they had helped me to get a job in Yale University as a professor. And I
Right.
justice there for a short stint. And then I left that state and then I came on to another state. But what it is, and it is accurate too, Shaw. It's definitely a force that does not give those individuals a chance if they have something on their records. I've seen it. I
Hmm.
felt I've run up against it. Um, but there's also something else there that if you come equipped and you come right, sometimes you can't be denied. And then
Right.
there are doors for you. Again, that's the choice. You can have the choice to stay in and be ignorant and do the crazy stuff, which won't pay off at any time in your life, basically. Um, or you can make the choice to say, I got ready, I got a plan, I got to make a blueprint. I got to make sure that I'm preparing to get out to be the father that I should be, to be the son that I should be, the brother or uncle that, you have a choice. But depending on the way that you attack it and you go about it, that's what's going to determine your success or failure for the most part. Um, Even when I'm speaking to guys in prison or that are on parole or probation now, I always tell them, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And somebody
Hmm.
has, don't get it twisted,
Hmm.
form these beds. Somebody got to help keep these lights on. And if you keep
Hmm.
playing, become a willing player on the stage of decadence, then you are it. Tag, you're the commodity. So you
Right.
decide if break the law and keep playing games or you want to get your life together, because if not, you can be accommodated and you can sit up in there for
Hmm.
the rest. And I always like to, when I speak to them, I like to speak where I can cut across the nonsense, because what I do know, and a lot of them always tell me that they love it, soft talk. It's so gentle, and you don't have to. And I'm like, come on, let's not play these games. You, are you worried about your kids now? If you were so worried about them, what you doing in here for the third time? I mean, I
Right.
don't because y'all playing a game. And I did manipulation 101, 201, 301, 401. So I'm the master. Don't play no games with me. Answer my questions, you know. And when I finished speaking, they cried like that little boy that I was, because they know that they caught up and know that they have something going on in their head that's not right. And they're not willing to give their all to get out. And the only thing they cry and they say, yo, I'm just grateful to even just be in your presence and to hear you speak, because nobody ever spoke to me like that. And I'm talking about like, there's all of them, they don't want to hear nothing, you know, but they're like, on you for 6 months, I know something different will happen in my life, you know. And sometimes that's what they need, you know. Don't come in here and tell me that you want to be, oh, my mom, she's sick, and was you worried about mom when you was sticking up that grocery?
Yeah. Yep.
Dad starting to not be able to walk no more when you were pistol whipping that dude in the movie theater. Come on, let's not play these games. You know, right is right, wrong is wrong, crime is crime. What are you going to do? How can you fix it up and be better? That's what I'm here to tell you, you know. So thankfully, I made the choice to do something different and do something better. And amazing, because sometimes, honestly, I have to pinch myself. I was sitting there and as a professor, and I was sitting there like, am I really here?
Exactly right. Right.
You know, because I got all of these students in front of me. They got yacht club hats on, and where I come from, if you got a coat, you lucky. They got yacht club hats on, and I'm like, what the heck? But the way that I brought it, because the experience trumps the academia inside of the textbook in a lot of situations, you know. And I know a lot of professors wouldn't agree with me on that because they haven't lived what I lived. But when I spoke to the student and told them, hey, close the book for a minute, let me take you to the hood. Why?
There you go.
I got to tell my friend about this class. He got to take this class, because nobody to them about the dirty corruption, how different people in power can put people as drug dealers on the street and act like they upholding the law. Nobody wanted to talk about that. Nobody talks about it, you know. And just to have that particular opportunity to let them know, this is what criminal justice is. This is how we can correct it. This is your obligation, because some of you might be the future vice president, attorney general, defense attorney, corporate attorney, whatever. Don't forget this moment, because this is a learning curve for you, you know. And then we open up the books and we get into the books and start.
Well, hey, we are like completely out of time. So
no doubt.
We definitely got to do a part 2 on this one, because I have some other questions that I want to ask. Hey, we got to get you back on soon.
Love the information, brother.
Yeah, so we can finish this thing up, man. So, man, we really, really, really appreciate it. I'll be reaching out to you so we can try to set up another time to come on to finish up, because we can talk about this for like hours, but they gave us an hour, so we're gonna have to hop off. Thanks for joining Man Talk 133 with Charles and Daryl. Until next time, Chucky, thanks for coming on, man. To next time, God bless, and we will catch y'all the next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.